Good afternoon, and welcome to the behind-the-scenes look at the Midmarket CIO Forum. I am your host, Amy Abbott, Event Manager for the Midmarket CIO Forum. We have assembled a stellar group here today. We currently have representatives from Dell, EMC, Oracle, SAP, and MicroStrategy, to name a few. Welcome, everyone. And just a couple of items to note. If anyone has any trouble hearing, seeing, or staying on the webinar, please contact Susie Anderson at susie.anderson@itbusinessedge.com. You can now see her email address in the chat window in your control panel. She can also provide a copy of the presentation in PDF form so you may follow along. During the event, you may also submit questions via the chat function by submitting your questions to our staff. You can do this by looking to the right side of your screen, locating your control panel, and looking for the chat window. You may submit questions to the staff using this way, and we will cover them at the end of the presentation in the Q&A section. Now, we also have some excellent presenters on the agenda today. With us are Ken Stout, Vice President of Sales here at IT Business Edge. He will give us an overview of the three-day event that connects pre-qualified CIOs to technology vendors. We also have Hans Keller, VP of IT Operations at Ericsson Living, who will give us a perspective of the attendee, being a previous attendee himself. He will provide a first-hand testimonial about why this event is beneficial for his strategic planning and purchasing decisions. And finally, we have the expert insight of Brian Anderson, Chief Marketing Officer at Beyond Trust, who will tell us from his experience why vendors should sponsor the Midmarket CIO Forum by explaining why the format, the preparation, and the attendees make this an event a smart choice for tech vendors. So if everyone's ready, I'll turn it over to Ken to begin. Hello, Ken. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Amy, and welcome, everyone. I want to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to learn more about the Midmarket CIO Forum, which is happening in November 13th to the 15th in San Diego. So the goals for today, I'd like to give you some insight into the November event, discuss a little bit how we attract the hosted attendees, and as a sponsor, what you should expect at the event, and then how do you gain access to the IT executives. First off, we all know that tapping into the mid-market is a huge opportunity. It's estimated to be a $335 billion worldwide market, according to Infotech Research Group. So why are vendors targeting the mid-market? There are over 450,000 mid-market enterprises worldwide. Mid-market enterprises spend more on revenue on IT than large enterprises, and it's a very underserved market. So let's talk a little bit about that. Why is the mid-market underserved? Reaching the mid-market is really a challenge for centralized marketing departments within enterprise software companies. Selling to the mid-market is really quite different from selling to large Fortune 100 firms, and enterprise software companies regularly struggle to get it right. The messaging and value propositions that resonate with enterprise customers are often misaligned with mid-market customers' pain points. And really the transition from a direct sales model to selling via channels is quite complex. The result is that lots of time and money is wasted from the fundamental lack of understanding of both customer and partner needs. In addition, enterprise companies frequently don't take the time to fully define the mid-market category, and there are actually at least 3 different tiers to consider when developing a mid-market strategy. There's a top tier. These are large mid-market companies that are scaling rapidly. Their needs are similar to those of enterprise companies. For example, they have emerging IT organizations and possibly a sophisticated infrastructure. Then there's the middle tier. These are small, rapidly growing companies with the need to focus on scale, but don't yet have the breadth or resources of the enterprise. They need solutions targeted to their needs, but can't afford to support enterprise solutions that are highly customized or that require ongoing management and possibly training. And then there's the bottom tier, and these are companies that until recently were really small businesses and are only just starting to put in place the capabilities to provide more robust processes and effective business management. So in short, software vendors need to really understand the complexities of marketing enterprise software to mid-sized companies. They need to make sure that communication and messaging of the value proposition is in complete alignment with mid-sized organizations. Now, on the event side, there aren't really many opportunities for CIOs for mid-market organizations to get together for an extended period of time to share ideas, network with their peers, discuss their own pain points with like-minded colleagues, and also source for new products and services. So a little bit about IT Business Edge. We're the sponsor of the event. I don't know if all of you have heard of IT Business Edge. Hopefully you have. But just to give you a little update on who we are, we're an online media company that reaches high-level technology decision makers looking for the competitive edge on the technology issues that drive their businesses. They use our network of sites and newsletters to stay apprised of evolving issues, strategies, and solve problems. We have downloadable tools, and they choose cost-effective solutions for their IT needs. If you haven't visited our sites, I would suggest that you do that. It would be itbusinessedge.com, along with our network sites that you can click on through the main site. The management team at IT Business Edge has over 25 years of IT media experience. We have 850,000 registered users that subscribe to our services. Of those 850,000, roughly 76% are manager and above in IT and line of business. And as an advertising partner, there are many ways we can help you get in front of our audience through website ads, placements across our content-rich sites for branding and awareness, cost per lead programs. These are permission-based lead generation programs utilizing white papers or sponsored research or webcasts. Also, we can create custom content for you in the form of white papers or webcasts to generate leads. There are cost per click programs. This is really a turnkey program, a cost-effective approach to drive traffic directly to a specific destination, possibly on your site. We have weekly email newsletters, and we have opportunities for branding and awareness within those as well, dedicated emails, and obviously our hosted events, which we're talking about today. So please keep us in mind if we can help you out in any of these areas in addition to hosted events. So why the Mid-Market CIO Forum? You know, this really is a unique event format. It really builds partnerships between mid-market CIOs and vendors. And we bring in, essentially we bring in 150 CIOs over a 3-day period on our dime. They're fully vetted and recruited based on very specific criteria. It's a white glove event. They receive VIP treatment during the entire 2.5 days. And as a sponsor of the event, you have really 3 different ways to engage with the executives over the 3-day period. First is the private boardrooms. As a sponsor, you'd have the opportunity to educate, demonstrate, and sell to 150 North American pre-qualified senior-level decision makers within mid-market companies. There are 10 boardrooms of approximately 15 CIO-level decision makers per room. So you would have access to a certain number of boardrooms according to your sponsorship level. And then you would have 30 minutes to present to each boardroom. Now our staff will work with you in advance of the event to ensure that your presentation resonates with our executives. We'll also encourage you to have a dry run with a CIO that that's usually someone that serves on our advisory board. So when you think of the boardrooms, think of it as speed dating, if you will. Each side is really trying to decide whether they want to take the next step in the relationship. And what's the next step in that relationship? Typically, it's a one-to-one meeting. So you can request one-on-one meetings with individual executives, or they can request a meeting with you. At our last event in April, there were 350 one-on-one meetings. Over half of those meetings were actually initiated by the IT executives. And then there are also networking functions. We have a golf outing. So you have an opportunity to spend 4 hours on the golf course, or if you play like I do, 5 hours on the golf course with IT executives. There's also lunches and receptions where you meet with them in a casual social setting. So I'm going to read this testimonial from one of our sponsors. This happens to be Alan Sabin from Cast Iron Systems, a division of IBM. The most valuable aspect of the Mid-Market CIO Forum is the quality of the individuals attending the conference. People here are really looking for solutions and technologies for their respective enterprises. And this actually is a testimonial from one of our CIOs. I appreciate this kind of forum as it provides an adequate opportunity to the attendees to preview hardware, software, and services without the sales pitch and a neutral environment to compare vendors' products. I've already contacted one of the vendors to purchase their software. And I'll also add, at the last event in April, I had a CIO come up to me and say that it would have taken him over a year to make this many appointments with vendors. He also said there were many vendors there that weren't even on his radar screen. As far as the profile of our executives, you see the audience profile here by revenue, titles, and seats. Titles range from CIO, CTO, Director, to Vice President of IT and IS. But I just want to emphasize that to be qualified to be invited to this event, they must be the highest level IT decision maker in their organization. Annual sales revenue, over 100 million to roughly $1 billion. Company size, 100 to roughly 1,000 knowledge workers. IT budget starting at 1 million in IT solution spend. And the decision maker and budget holder in the IT spending process. And Amy will go over the recruitment process in greater detail a little bit later. Now this is very important. Every one of our executives are band qualified, meaning they have budget, 1 million in IT budget or more, an average of 6.5 million. They have the authority. They're the highest ranking person in the company, IT person in the company with 100% budget authority. And they do have a need and timing to purchase that need. They have multiple funded technology issues that will be funded in the next 12 months. And then we can share with you specifically how many of the executives are looking for your specific solutions, and we can do that on a one-off basis. So for all of us that have participated in industry events, this is really the anti-trade show. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You stand in a booth waiting for a qualified prospect to find you. In our event, you know exactly who will be attending before you get there. And also by committing early, you have the opportunity to develop relationships with the executives beforehand through research and surveys. You can even give us a list of your prospects and we'll recruit on your behalf. So these are a couple more testimonials from our sponsors. On the left is Rackspace, which is an anchor sponsor. After our first sponsorship of the Midmarket CIO Forum in November, we are true believers. The event team was so helpful in preparing us for our first event and set us up for solid success. The online community allowed us to connect with IT executives prior to arrival and organize our own networking event while in Orlando. From start to finish, the Midmarket CIO Forum team made our experience stellar. We love selling to the mid-market audience, and these were dollars well spent to reach that market. On the right is HDS. This was a good way to introduce and explain our product and message to decision makers. We had an opportunity to get one-to-one conversations with 80 CIOs in a couple days, which could have taken us more than a year. You can't do that anywhere else. So we do have a proven format. You have an opportunity to reach this very, very targeted audience through private boardrooms, one-on-one meetings, industry insight through our analysts, our receptions, our awards dinners, and through the various networking opportunities that we provide for both the sponsors and the IT executives. Now, this is the current list of sponsors that have actually committed to the November event, and I'd like to say a special thanks to our anchor sponsors, IBM, Tragio, and Rackspace.
Great.
So thanks again for your time, and I hope to see you all in San Diego at the November event.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ken, for that insight.
My pleasure.
Great. Next up, we have Hans Keller. Hans is the VP of Operations at Ericsson Living, where he is responsible for application delivery, collaboration platform, infrastructure provisioning and optimization, performance management, information security, and all data center operations in support of over 13,000 staff and 23,000 residents in more than 16 communities throughout the U.S. Hans also oversees the enterprise healthcare applications that support the Ericsson Health Management Group, which is the largest geriatrics practice in North America, as well as the implementation of IT for all new community construction efforts. Prior to joining Ericsson, Hans served as the Chief Technology Officer of the National Aquarium in Baltimore. Hans is here with us today to give us a perspective with first-hand testimonial about why this event is beneficial for his strategic planning and purchasing decisions. Hans, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us and give some insight into the day of the life of a mid-market CIO.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure to be here, and looking forward to talking to everybody on the conference.
Great. Could you please tell us a little bit about Erickson Living?
Sure. So Erickson Living is the developer and manager of continuing care retirement communities. We offer everything from independent living through hospice, including complete medical care, dining services, including pubs on our campuses, aquatic centers, fitness centers, et cetera, with up to 2,000 resident units per campus. One way to think of it is our campuses are like a college campus with just a slightly older demographic. We are in the process of growing. We have approximately 250,000 feet of construction getting ready to kick off this quarter, and are looking to continue to expand as the aging market is one that is growing rapidly. Overall, we have just about 13,000 staff, which translates into just over 5,000 seats. We have a lot of multi-use machines, especially in our assisted living and skilled nursing facilities. And those support, as you mentioned, just about 23,000 residents in the 16 communities that we have right now. From an IT perspective, we have an IT staff of about 85. With an operating budget, it's a little higher than the average for most of the attendees. Our operating budget is almost $17 million, and that's in addition to $6 million of capital spend as well.
Impressive. Thank you for that, Hans. Now I'd like to learn a little bit more about what a day in the life of a mid-market CIO is like. Could you give me a little bit of insight about what some of your strategic priorities are?
Oh, absolutely. When you look at Erickson as a company, we're really focused on 6 strategic imperatives. First and foremost is delivery of high resident satisfaction, which we run surveys to ensure that we provide a consistent, high-quality experience for the residents who call our campuses home. The second priority is a high-quality integrated health care. We have, as you mentioned, the largest geriatrics practice in the U.S., and we provide both independent doctor visits all the way through skilled nursing, and it's important that the quality of that sets the bar high for our particular industry. There's a lot of focus on employees. 2 of our imperatives are creating a culture of employee engagement, as well as diversity and inclusion. And then the last kind of 2 areas that we focus on are achieving excellence through a focus on cost, productivity, and quality, and creating a culture of service excellence, which really permeates all the lines of business that we have. So when we look at the IT component of that, there are a number of IT projects that are going on that directly map and support these goals. Just to name a few, we are reaching towards attaining meaningful use of our electronic medical record systems. We're implementing a new billing system this year. We're implementing a new CRM system this year. We're upgrading our entire food service application this year. We have a number of efforts just making sure from an information security standpoint we stay off any newspaper. And we're looking at optimizing the effectiveness of the what are called resource utilization groups, or how we actually work in our assisted living and skilled nursing. And in addition to those business projects, there are a number of IT-only projects such as upgrading Exchange, doing server refreshes. We just finished virtualizing the majority of our Oracle databases. We are putting our toe in the water for VDI. And there's probably another 15 to 20 projects that we're working on at this point in time to finish by the end of 2011.
Excellent. That gives us a really good idea about why CIOs are never available to take unsolicited vendor calls. You have quite a few priorities there, Hans. Now, could you share with us your experience with the Midmarket CIO Forum? Like, what were you skeptical about when you first attended the Midmarket CIO Forum, and how did that compare to your experience attending other events?
Sure. So I would echo your comment on the fact that I actually don't take cold calls and with the amount of email that's flowing back and forth, even unsolicited email, from my perspective, is very rarely answered. With all of the projects and everything going on, and just keeping up on what's happening within our four walls, much less outside our four walls from a technology perspective, there just isn't a lot of time to do that, to accept those kind of independent or one-off research opportunities. When I first looked at the CIO forum, I was kind of skeptical, especially when you look at all of the different pieces of, there's no cost associated with it, just come down and spend some time with us, we're going to do these boardroom sessions. What I've actually found out is this becomes one of the most important events for me to go to during the year. When I look at the conferences that I go to, I normally attend one or two large conferences, such as Gartner Symposium or the HIMSS conference on the healthcare side. While these are a great opportunity to get, on the Gartner side, what their analysts are saying, or, in HIMSS, what's going on in the healthcare space, it's really a poor opportunity to interact with potential vendors, potential future partners, or even interact with other folks who have, are interested in the same areas that I am, primarily because of the scale. When you go down to a vendor showcase and there's 2,500 who are participating, and there's no introduction to any of them or what their wares are, unless I've already heard of them and want to establish a relationship with them, which I probably wouldn't do at one of those large events, there's not that opportunity to get engaged. What I found with the Midmarket CIO Forum is the boardroom sessions and that 30-minute case study presentation that's provided really gives me an understanding of, what that particular vendor or partner is offering, how they deliver it in the technology space. Oftentimes, it's for some of the better presentations, it's combined with a CIO who has already deployed the solution, so it gives a point of reference or validation to it. So I find in the 3 days, I get a lot of information around vendors who are lined up with interests that I have. There's a survey process that happens before going to the event that just makes sure that the boardroom that I'm in is aligned with presenters who are providing that right information to us. So that whole process, really, I walk out of it with, here are 3 or 4 or 6 potential partners who I want to go talk with. When I walk into the expo hall, right, there's a rather limited number of folks to go and interact with, and I already know enough about them to start the conversation where it becomes meaningful rather quickly.
Excellent. Thank you, Han. Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing your perspective. And the next we have the expert insight of Brian Anderson. He's the Chief Marketing Officer at Beyond Trust, the global leader in privileged authorization management, access control, and security solutions for virtualization and cloud computing environments. Now, Brian brings more than 25 years of global enterprise software and security industry experience. Prior to Beyond Trust, Anderson served as Chief Marketing Officer for several venture-funded companies. At Siberian Software, his branding efforts garnered rave reviews and numerous awards, including innovator status in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. At Avamar Technologies, his leadership resulted in huge revenue increase and numerous awards, and subsequently resulted in the acquisition by EMC. Prior to Avamar, Anderson was Director of Marketing at IBM Tivoli Security and Storage. Anderson also served as CMO of HNC Software, which experienced tremendous growth during his tenure and was successfully acquired by Fair Isaac in 2002. Now, Beyond Trust has been a key sponsor at the event, and Brian is here today to talk about the benefits of sponsorship and making the most of the Midmarket CIO Forum. So, Brian, thank you for joining us today.
Sure, my pleasure.
Excellent. Brian, can we start by you telling us a little bit about how you were introduced to the Midmarket CIO Forum?
Sure. I guess I have to credit and or blame a persistent IT business edge sales rep. You know, as a CMO of a $60 million software company, I get literally hundreds, if not thousands, of unsolicited emails and phone calls a week trying to sell me new and improved ways to generate leads and find prospects. And needless to say, I've probably deleted 5 or 6 emails from these guys and maybe even 4 or 5 ignored phone calls. But this particular persistent rep finally got me on the phone, and I expressed some of my concerns in doing these type of events with other vendors in the past. And he kind of belayed those concerns and got me to a point where I was willing to at least give it a try. And I have to admit, I'm very glad I did.
Excellent. So when you actually did sign on, what were some of the fears you had before participating, and what was your actual first experience like?
Sure. So, you know, as I mentioned, I've done this type of event probably 30 or 40 times over the last 5 or 6 years with different organizations. And, you know, my experience has been that this type of event historically is an extremely high cost per lead. And although the conversion rate can be really good when it works, it can also be really bad when it doesn't. You know, so that's kind of fear number one. Fear number two was that, you know, I would show up at an event like this and be all excited about presenting, and the attendees were really there more to play golf and experience the resort than they were to actually dive in and evaluate vendors. And then the third fear was the classic bait and switch. You know, I was told that this CIO from this organization was going to show up, but in fact, you know, an underling wound up coming in his place. So, you know, going into it with those fears, you know, my sales rep pretty much explained a lot of what you heard from Ken, that IT Business Edge takes a much different approach to how they put on the event. And, you know, being the skeptic that I am, I said, all right, I'll give it a try. You know, if it works, then we'll continue a relationship onward. If it doesn't, then you owe me big time. You know, to make this long story short, I was pleasantly surprised on all fronts. You know, everybody at IT Business Edge were able to help us through the process. There was some training on how to talk to this audience based on the interviews that they've done. I really appreciated that. Having the ability to preset meetings before the event also was a big benefit. And as you heard from Hans, you know, having the boardroom approach where the boardrooms are set up in such a way that, you know, there's a propensity for the people in that room to be interested in your value prop. That then set the stage for us to have even more one-on-one. So across the board, you know, the professionality of the IT Business Edge team, the quality of the attendees, the people who we were told were going to be there were in fact there. The attention that they gave to us as a vendor, as opposed to just going off and playing at the resort, was absolutely stellar. And then ultimately for me, because I'm a very metrics-driven executive, it's the numbers at the end of the game. And when I look at the number of leads that were generated, not just suspects and prospects, but actual leads, and then those that converted into opportunities and subsequently closed business, has just made me a believer. I mean, so much so that I've already finished my second group session with these guys, and have signed up for the third in Coronado as well.
Excellent. Well, this is definitely a good picture that you paint to show why this has been a good investment for you, Brian, and beyond trust. I'm happy to see that you're pleased. So thank you so much for your insight. And I'm going to move on now to a little bit about some final points on how we qualify and recruit our audience at the forum. I'll start by mentioning some powerful statistics to illustrate the buying power of this audience. The minimum IT budget, as we said, starts at $1 million, but the overall average IT budget for our audience is $6.5 million. Also, if you combined all the IT budgets at the last event, there was $750 million in budget represented. Also, our attendees are in the position of decision maker and budget holder. These delegates have reported a 26% of overall current audience has increased spending between 5 and 10% over last year, and an additional 19% of the current audience plan to increase their spending by more than 10%. That's pretty powerful stuff in today's market. As Ken had previously mentioned, myself and the team of executive recruiters qualify each delegate based on BAM. That's budget, authority, need, and timing. Through our conversations with the delegates, we get an outline of their current IT projects, determine their needs, and inquire what vendors they would like to see on site. We also seek other qualified delegates through peer referrals. Referrals, referrals, referrals. That helps us reach out to other executives in the same leadership position to attend the event with their peers. I would like to wrap this part of the presentation before we open it up to the Q&A session with some insight into the top funded projects our delegates are leading within their organizations. As you can see on this slide, the attendees of the upcoming program share similar interests to fund projects involving application integration, enhanced security, disaster recovery and business continuity initiatives, and mobility solutions, just to name a few. You can see a complete list here on this slide. I'll also take this moment to offer those on the call a list of our confirmed attendees and a custom sample list of those specifically seeking your solutions. Just be sure to reach out to your sales executive for more details on acquiring these lists. And at this time, I would like to turn to some of the questions we have received today during the webinar from our audience online. We have some great questions to cover, and if we don't get to your question before the end of the call, your sales executive will follow up with you via phone or email. Also, those of you who would like a copy of the presentation, the slides will be available in PDF as well as recorded in Windows Media Player format. So now let's turn to some of the questions that we have from our listeners. I see one that just came in here that says, what is the typical representation of the audience in terms of vertical markets? That's pretty interesting because this is truly a cross-vertical audience. We typically have strong showings from particular industries such as engineering and construction, banking and finance, healthcare, manufacturing, retail, and even the public sector. We can also let you know that we can provide you with that list. Again, this is a reminder of our confirmed attendees, so if you'd like to see them broken up specifically for your target verticals, just contact your representative for that list. Looking at another one here. Hans, this looks like a question for you. Do you have any advice for vendors who are presenting to you in the boardroom environment?
Sure. There's definitely an approach that seems to work very well with the audience. The biggest challenge that I've seen in some of the presentations are that the particular vendor or partner is trying to describe the vast array of all of the services that they could possibly cover in the time that they have allotted, which in essence makes it where the presentation seems like we're being spoken at rather than spoken to. What I found and what I found to be most compelling is not trying to cover the entire suite or the solutions that are provided, but instead rather to try and engage in a conversation or provide some small examples of wins that particular vendor or partner has been able to achieve. What that does is since it's impossible to know in depth all of the 15 CIOs who are in the boardroom at that point in time, what all of their thoughts, concerns, projects are, it starts the conversation and it creates the opportunity for me to jot down a note and say, you know, I really want to follow up with this person. It seems like they have some interesting solutions. Let's see if they find if there's something that can map to me. And again, with the intimacy of this event, that's very easy to do with all of the interactions that happen. That to me, in those conversational type events that aren't trying to just spew a whole bunch of information in a relatively short time, to me those are the ones that I find most compelling and usually offer the most follow-up after that particular session.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Now, since we have you on the line, there's another question here I'm looking at that's more specifically to you. says, do you prefer to speak directly to vendors, or do you prefer interacting with a vendor SI partner?
I guess it depends on the solution. We have a variety of different relationships, whether it's with larger vendors who have solutions that are offered through an integrator. We have certain relationships where, depending on the software that's provided or the solution that's provided, in some cases we're interacting directly with that that company. In other cases, even for that same company, we're using a third-party integrator to do it. So to us, it makes sense to find what fits best with our needs and what's provided. In certain cases, Microsoft is the classic example. In some cases, we actually use Microsoft Consulting Services to deliver a piece to us. In other cases, we'll actually use a third party that will implement on behalf of Microsoft. And we have similar relationships with some of the other large organizations that we have. So I would determine it really on a case-by-case basis, and it depends on who can deliver the best kind of quality service to us for the solution that's being presented.
Excellent point. We have one more question here, a little bit more about the recruitment that I can speak to. It says, what is the methodology used to really qualify the attendees according to your BANT process? So as I can kind of give you a little bit of a day in the life, what I do is when I actually have conversations with these potential delegates, the first conversations that we have is to kind of give an outline, of course, about the event and understand where their company is. Now, the demographics are pretty much rock solid. We're looking at a mid-market revenue range between $100 million to $1.2 billion. Once we determine if they're within that range, there are certain segments within the audience that we make sure that there's a very good cross-representation of people that come from companies within those ranges. So you won't have everybody in the 250 range. You'll have a pretty good range between 250 up to 1.2 billion. So the segments are very well represented across that range. The other component, of course, is authority. We make sure that we're speaking to the one person who has all IT authorities within the organization. We do that through a lot of research methods and other tools, and as well as word of mouth also helps us verify that these people do have the authority within their organization to make these decisions. The other component, of course, is need. So we talk to them about their project. The concept outlines a lot of what he has going on. That would be a typical conversation that we would have about the need that these delegates have for specific technologies. And we make sure that kind of pairs into what some of the content and topics that we're developing for the event is aligned. So they make the best use of their time on site. It is a place for them to meet their needs and get the information they need. And of course, timing. So these are projects that are not slated for the next 5 years. This is something that's slated for the next 6 months, 12 months. So timing is pretty much very current. So I'm looking at a few more questions. I'm sure we can reach out to these people. I wanted to thank everyone at this point for their participation in the webinar. And thank you so much for all of our presenters for taking the time. And thank you to all those who dialed into the call. I encourage you to reach out to Rose Booth, as you see her information is at the bottom here, or your sales executive to take advantage of the offer I mentioned earlier for a list of our confirmed attendees and a custom sample of those specifically seeking your solutions. It could be very valuable. Now is the perfect time to take advantage of sponsorship at the upcoming Midmarket CIO Forum in November. We do currently have more than half of the audience confirmed at 5 months out. Sponsors who come on board at this point in the stage will have an increased opportunity for customized recruitment based on your specific solution. So at this point, I want to thank everyone again for joining us today. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Goodbye.